Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Amud Yom Shir. In our Amud Yom Shir, we're learning Amud a day from the Gemara, Kiddushin Daf Chof Amud Aleph. Daf Chof Amud Aleph. That's where we are right now. Today's Amud is Chaf Amud Beis, but we're still in Chof Amud Aleph towards the bottom of the page. And we are learning, and we want to welcome everybody on Torah Anytime in our YouTube channel. We are describing now, in the middle of the very sad description, the Gemara describes a person who just does not do teshuvah. It's a person who sinned with selling the wrong kind of stuff. Yeah, we don't mean drugs or alcohol. He's selling what? He's selling peiros shvis. He's selling the fruit of shmita, and he shouldn't. He doesn't sell it the right way. He sells it to make money. You're not allowed to do that. And that person slowly but surely loses all his assets and goes, down the drain. And every time his situation gets worse. And unfortunately, he doesn't get the message and doesn't do teshuva for selling the parashvis. Yeah, that avera that caused him all this deterioration, he doesn't do the introspection, the tshuva. It doesn't stop to think. Yeah, as we said yesterday, once a person repeats the avera already, it's very hard to do tshuva because he thinks it's okay. He feels as if it's right. So now we already describe a person who sold that person who got into this bad situation because he did bad business. So what happened to him already? He sold his metaltalin. He sold already his movable stuff, his furniture, his computer. And then what did he have to sell? Afterwards, he sold his field, and then he had to sell his house, etc. Now we are in the line starts with the word naases. Yeah, it's about, I think, seven, lines from the bottom. Loi bos liyodoi ad shmoiches bitoy. Yeah, he ends up loi bos liyodoi, which means he's not doing teshuva until he's selling his own daughter. Yeah, which is a very sad thing. Shenema, it says, "V'chiyim kor ishes bitoy la'ama." If a man sells his daughter to an ama. Now, how do you know that the guy sold his daughter as an ama? How do you know that that has to do with this deterioration? So most of the stages described in this very sad process, all these stages are all mentioned together at the end of Chumash Vayikra in Parshas Bahar. Yeah, he sold his house. Excuse me, he sold his field. He sold his house, etc. Selling the daughter is not written there. Yeah, it's not in that context. It's written in Mishpatim, in Chumash Mois. It's not written there at the end of Vayikra. So what is he doing here? The sale of the daughter is not written in that context, in that matter, meaning what? Selling your daughter. Who says it has to do with this downward spiral process? Answers the Gemara, Hakamash Malan, as we're going to explain soon, it's coming to teach me Nizbin inash balte velonezif beribisa. It's better for a person, it's more likely, not halachically, also halachically, by the way, also halachically, and also business sense wise, it makes sense for a person to sell his daughter and not to borrow beribis, not to borrow with ribis. You may ask the question, what does ribis have to do with anything? Which ribis? Ribis will be the next stage in the deterioration. Yeah, we spoke about a guy who sold his metaltalin, then he sold his field, then he sold his house, then he sold his daughter, and the next stage will be he borrowed beribis. He borrowed, that's very bad, he borrowed money having to pay interest. So now, because we know that a person, even not mitzad yiras shamayim, even a goy, a person would prefer business-wise to sell his daughter and not to borrow beribis, and since we say that ribis is the next stage, must be the in-between stage before borrowing beribis was selling his daughter. So that is the missing link over here in the middle. Shenema, it says in the Torah, yeah, if your brother impoverishes, your brother becomes poor, and moto yodo, his hand goes down, his situation is deteriorating, and then later it says, al tikach meitoy. It says, al tikach meitoy neshech v'talbis. In other words, the ribis is mentioned. The ribis is mentioned in the context of the parsha. So how do you know about selling the daughter? We know that selling the daughter is, no, I skipped a line, excuse me. My timer. There's a line before. Yeah. My timer. Why is it so in the middle of the line? 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Yeah. and we are in the middle of the line. Why is it better for a person to sell his daughter, not bar beribis? Barte migra venafka. Yeah, the daughter, there's an end to it. You pay magra. In other words, let's say she sold for 6 years. That's a maximum. Slowly, it's deducted and deducted. Venafka, then she goes out. There's an end to that story. Veha, well, ribis moisfa ve'azla. Ribis is more and more and more, right? The more you delay the payment, the more you have to pay. It's an endless pit. The Rishonim say, the Gemara says it's like a snake that bites you, and the venom goes slowly but surely through the entire body from that place. Now we continue. What happens after the person sold his daughter? He deteriorates even more. Something even worse happens to him. He doesn't do tshuva. It's just automatic because he's so entrenched in his sin. It doesn't occur to him that all these terrible things are happening to him. That's a sign, that's a red alert sign, Mishamayim, do tshuva. He doesn't think about it. So what's the next stage after selling his daughter? He got some money, he lost the money. Yeah, could be still selling his vegetables, by the way, in fruit of Shemitah. Could be still doing it, or at least he didn't do tshuva for doing it before. Achalova beribis. How do you know that milva beribis is now the next stage? Shenemar, and that is written in that parsha in Vayikra. It says, "V'chi yomu chachicha moto yodo imach." If your brother gets poor and moto yodoi, and his hand is going down, imach, you have to support him. And then it says, "Al tikach miitoi." One form of support is don't take from him neshech v'tarbis. Yeah, don't take from him neshech v'tarbis, which means don't lend him with ribis, i.e., the guy himself would borrow ribis, the sinner. Right? He's so desperate he would borrow ribis. Now continues the Gemara. Loy bas liodoy. Unfortunately, he's still in his downward spiral. Lo bas liodoy ad shemoiches atzmoi. Things get so bad, he gets to sell himself. Shenemar v'chiyomu chachicha v'nimkar lecho. Your brother will become poor and he'll be sold to you. The Rambam says something very strong at the beginning of Hilchas Avodim. I want to point out here. I want to add the Rambam. The Rambam says the person is only allowed to sell himself as an eved. Even it sounds like even to a Jew. I'm not talking about a guy who stole. The guy who stole himself only if he really, really has nothing at all. In other words, it's not like he borrowed and now he has to give back, the money. And in order to pay back loans, he sells himself. He has nothing. He has no food, no clothes in the house. He's down, dirt poor, down and out. Only then he can sell himself as an Eved Ivri. Otherwise, no. Yeah, so we're talking about a guy who's doing really, really bad. He tried everything else. Nothing works. Let's see. And then continues the Brisa to describe the downward direction here, the deterioration. Not only he'd be sold to a fellow Jew, he'd be sold to a ger. I don't know why being sold to a ger is worse than being sold to a Jew. Maybe a ger because he can't marry a kohen. The kohen cannot marry a gioires. Yeah. So then being sold to a ger is, I guess, considered to be more of a humiliation. But then it says Shenimar Leger. It says there in the Pasuk Leger continues the Brisa V'lo Leger Tzedek Elo Leger Toishov. Not only he'll be sold to a Ger Tzedek, which is relatively good, he'll be sold to a Ger Toishov. What's a Ger Toishov? It's a goy who accepted upon himself to keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. He's a goy, but he said it's a Noachide. Noachide, that's what they call today. Noachide or Noachide, depends on whom they are. Some of them say Noachide. So the Noachide, he is a guy who keeps the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. He accepted it because he believes in the Torah. According to Rashi, Ger Toishov is not someone who accepted all 7 mitzvahs, just accepted not to worship of a Zorah because Hashem said so. That's already good enough. He doesn't keep anything else. Shenemar, and how do you know that he'll end up a Ger Toishov who practically is a goy? He's a good goy, but he's a goy. Shenemar Ger Toishov, it says in the Torah there in the parsha, Ger Toishov. Now we continue to read and follow his deterioration. It says there in the pasuk, Mishpachas Ger. Mishpachas Ger, the extra word Mishpacha, the family of a ger. What do you mean the family of the ger? Why is family related? You sold to a person, a family, who cares? Mishpachas comes to end. Not only he was sold to Ger Toishov, afterwards he ended up, the Ger Toishov, I guess, sold him on to who? David Kechovim, sold him to a regular guy. A regular David Kechovim, David Zara. The guy has crosses in his house. He has a statue of David Zara. and even that he sunk that low. Shu Omer, it's not the end of the story. Shu Omer le'eker, it says le'eker mishpachas ger. What does the word eker mean? Yeah, the person was sold le'eker mishpachas ger. What's eker? Zanimkar lover the chovim atzmo. Zanimkar, listen to this. La'avodas bechovim atzmo, which means that person was sold to eker. What's la'akor? To uproot. Very good. Avodah zarah is something that Emirtz Hashem soon will be uprooted from the land. Yeah, yeah, to be oiker Avodah zarah. So now he's sold actually to the shrine, to the church, Catholic. He's mamish sold to be a sexton. He's sold to be like a servant in the Avodah zarah house. Wow, that's his job. That's the job he found. Rashi says, "Lachtov eitzim v'shar tzorkeh v'lo l'shem elahut." In other words, not that he became Avodah zarah, and he doesn't worship Avodah zarah. Maybe if he worships Avodah zarah, then he has a different deen. We'll discuss later. But Lamaisa, this guy is, I would say, a good Jew, but he's a Jew. And Lamaisa, he sunk that low. That's the lowest you can get to. Yeah, you stoop that low. That what he's not worshiping. He's working in the international center for Hindu. Yeah. So now, why did we get into all that? We described the situation to answer or to challenge, actually, the following statement. If you remember, we said before, when Abaye said, I'm like Ben Azoi, Abaye was challenged, and we asked Abaye the question, why is it that we're being so nice to the person, to the Eved Ivri, right, sold to a Goy, and what do we do? Yeah, and also sold to a Jew. That was also a Chiddush, that if he went up in price, when he was sold originally, he was worth, let's say, 100. Now he's worth 200, and you want to redeem him now halfway through. So we calculate it according to what? The cheaper price of the beginning, 100, as if the entire time is worth 100, even though now he's 200. Yeah. Now, what about the other way around? He was worth 200, now went down to 100. You treat him as if he is. You calculate the expenses and the redeeming money as if he's now 100. And you have different psukim. One pasuk says shonov, you go by the current years. The other pasuk says kesef miknoseh, the way he was bought. That's kind of unbalanced. Yeah. Why are you always going lekula of the eved and to the chumra of the balabais? The balabais is relatively losing, while the eved is relatively gaining. So he said, what do you mean why? Said the Gemara, because Eved Ivri, when it comes to being sold to a Jew, you make sure that he gets a nice bed and he gets a nice pillow. That's why. Frak the Gemara, and this is, by the way, the arrowhead of the question. What do you mean? I understand that while he is by the Jew has to treat him like a king. But still, at the end of the day, yeah, we know that this guy, in many cases, whether he's sold to a Jew or a Goy, by the way, if you noticed, this downward process dealt with both a person sold to a Jew and a Goy. None of them is a tzaddik. They're sold because they were dealing with prohibited stuff. So maybe we don't have to be so nice to him. Stew in your juices, mister. Now you are by the Goy and you're complaining, oh, I'm working in the church. Okay, you should have thought about that before. And we'll redeem you. But Lamaisa, we don't have to be super extra nice to redeem you and always make the calculation in your favor. Question. That's the question. Omerle. So he responded, yeah. Awesome. Over there, over there, the pasuk gave him ahadre kro. The pasuk Kilu returned and told the entire Klal Yisrael to have rachmanus on him. Rashi says, "Adrikol lekol Yisrael rachim olav." The case of the guy sold to a goy, we said over there, right? That the Torah says ahadre. The Torah is going back and saying, be nice to the guy. Meaning, the Tani Dever Rabbi Yishmael, we're going to explain everything. This person went off the derech. He became already a koimer, a priest for the Avodas Kechavim. In other words, he may not be the real religious guy there. Maybe he's the one who's chot of eitzim, shoev mayim, but he's lamaisa helping out in the church. Can you imagine your next door neighbor in, I don't know, Brooklyn, Chaim Yankel? All of a sudden you see him working for the Catholic Church. Okay, that's interesting, because that's the only job he managed to get. He went down so much and all the loans and the ribbis, and he sold his daughter. The only thing he can do now is serve as a sexton in the church. How would you treat the guy? You say, off the derech. Says Tanit Rabbi Shmuel, maybe you should push the stone after the one who's falling. In other words, you see a guy falling, so as unfortunately many people do today, they see a person deteriorating. So what do? What does the teacher do when they see a kid deteriorating? Tells everybody else not to play with him, and he tells her, he's a problem. You have to kick him out of school. Yeah, it's doich even achar neufel. In other words, you see he's beginning to fall. Let's push him even further down the cliff because he's half of the derech, right? So maybe we should be doich even achar neufel. That's what I would have said. Maybe Talmud loymar. Oh, Talmud loymar what? Achre nimkar geulati eloi echad mecha vigolenu. Oh, you see, not like that. You see just the other way around. You see the person deteriorated. He's not yet in Oved Avodah Zarah, says Rashi. He's not in Oved Avodah Zarah. He's not a believer. He's very, very close. Yeah, he's already there. He's in a chevra. He's in the coffee room drinking with all the priests. He's mamish working for them. So says the Torah, Echan Mega Vigolenu, you still have to redeem him, which means what? Since we see that we do have to show compassion and care about the person who's, deteriorating, was already shaking, right? Who's not so clear about his Yiddishkeit. Therefore, I would say what? Please redeem him the best way possible for him. Always give the guy the cheaper price and not the higher price for him. Yeah? So that answers. Says the Gemara, no. The Gemara keeps insisting. No, I'm not yet convinced. The Ema Geula Tihi Eloi, what did the Pasuk say? Geula Tihi Eloi, meaning, please be goyal him, redeem him. He should have redemption. Why? Makes sense. I understand why we have to do ishtadlus, lobbying, and trying to, garner money, get money, so he should not be nitma. He should not be, swallowed. He should not go get lost, so to speak, between the Ovdei Kochovim. Very nice. However, hal inyan pidyon nachmir lei midobi Yosef Rabbi Chanina. But regarding the details of the pidyon, to say that the pidyon has to be so easy for him, right? To say that the pidyon has to be however much we can calculate, we'll calculate the cheaper way, the lower price to get you quickly out of there. I'm not so sure, says the Gemara. We do have the concept of Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina. What did Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina say? The guy is a big sinner. In other words, we keep moving back and forth here between two different forces, right? Two different ideas, two different wavelengths. On one end, you can say, listen, the guy's a sinner. Let him steal his juice and stay in that church. And I don't know. He's saying you should redeem him. Yeah, I believe I'll redeem him. Okay. On the other end, we say we don't have to redeem him so nicely and so make it too much of a smooth exit, because at the end of the day, the guy really did sin big time and did not get the message from Hashem about 6 or 7 times. So maybe I'll redeem him, but not nice and slow. Not exactly to always calculate it the lower price. Calculate it the fair price. Just do it normal. And therefore we come with a different answer. Yeah, you get the question. Again, the question is as follows. At the moment, we know that a Jew that was sold to a Jew or sold to death to a Jew is another question we discussed before. Right now we're talking about sold to a Goy. So sold to a Goy, even to Mamish Oved Avodah. He was sold to, not to Tim McKenzie, he was sold to Father O'Reilly. Yeah, and then, yeah, Irish. And what? And then he is in this matzav of being very far from Hashem. To redeem him, of course you redeem him. You don't let a Jew get lost. Kiruv. Masha'en Ken, wait a second. You're telling me that we always have to make the redeeming so easily and calculate what? The lower price? He was 200, now he's 100, I'll give him 100. He was 100 and then 200, I'll go back and give the original 100. Who told you that? Because our psukim can be read either way, right? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, no, Rav Nachman Yitzchak is coming with the final answer, with a brilliant answer. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says as follows: Trei kroi ksivi. There are 2 psukim, by the way. I just want to remind you, these are not the same psukim we mentioned before. These are 2 other psukim, and everything will be clear soon. Steve, it says in one pasuk, Im oid rabois b'shonim. It says Im oid rabois b'shonim. Literally, if there are still more years, many more years, then Yoshiv geulosoi mikesef miknosoi. Then it says you go by the kesef miknosoi, by the money. Uksivi me'at nishar b'shonim. And then it says if there are a few years left. Now, I translated you the real way. Rabes V'Shonim means there are many years left, and Ma'at Shonim is a few years left. By the way, when you sold to a goy, you can redeem the guy also 10, 20 years. It's still Yovel, right? The guy sold to a goy, yeah? So Im Rabes or Im Ma'at B'Shonim literally means if there are many years, you give him a lot of money. A few years, you give him a little bit of money. But the way that the Gemara darshans it, v'chiyesh shanim arubois v'yesh shanim u'otois, Rabos beshonim and mat beshonim, there are different ways to explain it. Rashi in Erchin explains as follows the question. Do you have years that are big and years that are small? A year is a year. Except for Iber Yor, except for Shana Muberes, okay, that's an exception. Okay, it's an extra month. Most years, especially by the Goysha, B'chlal, it's the years are the same. You don't have a big year and a small year. Okay, almost never, yeah? So what does the Torah mean when it says there's, a large year and a small year? Ela, but rather, yeah, Nisra b'kaspoi mikesef miknosoi. No, it's telling me the following. Nisra b'kaspoi, if he became more expensive, who? The Eved, that's exactly the story, right? If he increased in value in the middle of the term, then mikesef miknosoi. Increased in value, he used to be what? 100. Now it's 200. You go kesef miknosoi, the original money. That's what the pasuk says, by the way. The pasuk kesef miknosoi. What's kesef miknosoi? The original money, the cheap money, the low money that he was bought for. Nismait kaspoi, Vashenkin, if the small year, it's not that the year is small, he is small. He became less valuable. He cheapened. He became cheaper. Then kfishonov. Then you go according to the years, meaning the current years. He still has to serve the current value, which is cheap. So that could be a very, very good solution. The Gemara still has a question. How do you know? How do you know that that's what it's telling me? Maybe the pasuk is just telling me what I told you all the time before. Why do you have to make trouble? Why can't you learn very, very simple? When he worked only 2 years, the pash lay daled, and he still, what's pash? Left behind. Pash is remain, yeah? And he still has 4 remaining. Pash is always when the Gemara like the minus in Aramaic. Pash is this minus that. That's what's left. Upash le daled. He has 4 years left. Native le daled. Given the value of 4 years. Okay. Mikesef miknosoi. But mikesef miknosoi. Excuse me. Not native le daled. Mikesef miknosoi. If he only worked for 2 years, he worked for 2 years, and the majority of the years are still there for him to work. He only did 2 out of 6, minority. Then give him the rest of the 4. When he redeem and you pay for the 4 upcoming years, give him 4 mikesef miknosoi. That you have to give him. I'm now explaining according to Tosfos, by the way. Rashi says something not so clear. What I'm telling now is Poshet Tosfos in Amud Aleph. Then you give him mikesef miknosoi, meaning, let's say he was cheap and became expensive. The first half of his term, you still follow what? The way he was bought, the money you bought him with, either high or low. Because we're still the first half of the term, we follow the value that it was bought for, either 100 or 200. Masha'enkin ovad daled upashu letarti. Let's say he already worked 4. He did the majority. We tipped the scales. And now he only has 2 years left. Native tati kefi shonov. Then you go by his current value. In other words, the Gemara is suggesting as follows. Why are you being so subjective and so ki'ilu biased for the Eved? Again, I'm repeating the question. I know that there are 2 psukim. One pasuk says you follow the original money, kesef miknosoi, and another pasuk says what? You really follow what? The current money, kefi shonov. How do you know you always go by the cheap one? No. Maybe if it's the beginning of the term, when we still, balbatishly speaking, we remember the sale, you go by the sale of the money, but the original sale, whether high or low. And if it's past the 3 years, then you go according to the current value. But you're being fair. I always go by cheaper, expensive one way, cheaper, expensive the other way. But still, who told you to make it so kivyochol tilted, so inclined one way, and always tell me that when he's cheap, you always go by the cheap option to get him quickly out of there? How do you see that in the pasuk even? I don't see that in the pasuk. Answers the Gemara, and that's a really, really final answer. Im ken, if so, nichtov kro im oid rabois shonim, im me'at nishar shonim. If this is like you say, that we're talking about redeeming him at the beginning of the term, or redeeming him at the end of the term, then, yeah, sorry, Zoom. Yeah, if you talk about redeeming him at the beginning or redeeming at the end, I would have omitted the word B, the letter B. Imabis beshonim. Second, I'm sorry. Sorry for the Zoom break. Im ken ichtav kroi mod rabos shonim imat nishal shonim. If all the pasuk is telling me is, like Tosa says, that if I redeem him at the beginning of the term, the first half of the term, then it goes according to the original money. And if I redeem at the end of the term, it goes with the current money. I could have skipped the letter B. My beshonim. Beshonim, what does B mean? In, right? Or in English, you can say during, right? How do you say be meshech hashavua in English? Be during the week, right? Ba shavua, yeah. My beshonim, something happened during the 6 years. Nisra kaspoi beshonim, if his money, if his value increased beshonim during the years of his servitude, then bekesef miknosoi. Very good. It says ribui beshonim, he increased in value during the years, not that the year is big or the year is small or the year is minority of majority of the years. Something else happened during those years. If the Nisra Kaspa Beshonim, his value increased during the 6 years, says the Pasuk black and white, Mikesef Miknosoi. Then we say, go by the original money of the sale of the purchase, meaning the cheap one. If he's now more expensive, meaning at the beginning, that was cheap. Redeem him by the cheap price. Nismat Kaspa Beshonim, and the other case, let's say his money, he became cheaper Beshonim, during those 6 years, I don't care when, either 1 day later or 5.5 years later. Nismat Kaspa, he became cheaper, he cheapened, he's devaluated now during the 6 years. Then Kefi Shonov. Then the Pasuk says, you go Bashonim. Let's just read the Psukim here, it's on the side, it works beautifully. I'm reading inside. Says the Pasuk, Im oid rabois Beshonim, Lefien Yoshev Giolosoi, Mikesef Miknosoi. Rabois Beshonim, he became more rav, bigger, greater, expensive, more valuable beshonim, mikesef miknosoi. Then you redeem him by the original kesef. Continues the Torah. The me'at nishal bashonim, if his me'at left from his value bashonim during those 6 years, achnaso yovel, the chishav lo kfi shonov, Yoshev is giulosoi. Then you have to calculate according the years. Which years? The upcoming years. Upcoming years is now, is current and future, and therefore you go by the cheaper time every time. Very, very nice. You always go by the cheaper. Of course, ashkafically, I'm sure it means that you do your best to chop the yid out of the hands of the Zara, obviously. Yeah, but regarding the Jew, we already discussed before Abaye. Abaye is not talking only about one soul to go bepashtis. Amar Yosef, half a second. Amar Yosef, first wad lan. Amar Yosef, Darshino of Nachman, lani kroi kesinai. Rav Yosef is giving a compliment. Rav Yosef is saying a good word to Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman, good job. Says Rav Yosef, you darshan these psukim kesinai. I feel as if I'm standing in Har Sinai, in Mount Sinai, not the hospital. Yeah, I feel like I'm in Har Sinai, and these because it is. I mean, not that he needs maskama. Many times we see droshes that are not mamish in the pshat. This drosh is like very, very. It's a drosh and pshat together. It's very, very clear if you get it. And therefore, we're happy with that. And if your not your best friend, if your relative or best friend actually, right, both krov non-krovim, if he gets what under the hands of a goy, and by the way, the goy is over with the Zorah, but he does follow our rules when it comes to money. Interesting goy, right? Yes. Otherwise, he doesn't care about Yovel, right? What can you do? Yeah, you do your best to redeem him with the calculation of Yovel. How do you calculate? You always calculate for pro the yid and not pro the goy. However, that also applies to Jews. So previously, we have a Gzer Shava Yoshiv. I just want to close the picture. I'm asking a question. I jumped the queue. I'm asking a question. That's all very nice with the goy. Don't let him stay by Father O'Reilly's with with all the choir boys. But over here, when it comes to another Jew, well, let him stay with a nice frum yid and learn to be a mensch, and maybe be poidehim, but yeah, he should be poideh himself actually, not with such good conditions. Good question. There's a Gzera Shava that says sochir, sochir. Whatever, not always, but certain things that apply to one soul to a goy also apply to one soul to a yid. But so yid also, and one soul to yid is also not ideal. It's against the family's will. It's not a good situation. We don't want him to stay even with the house of a yid, and therefore the redeeming, I keep saying redemption, the redeeming should be easy and always with the lower amount of money out of the two options. The lower option, yeah, should always be given to the master, and he has to release him. Question time and tea time. Tea time for me and questions for you. Commercials. Okay. Yeah. A question that Rav Huna bar Chinan asked Rav Sheshes. Eved Ivri hanimkar lo'eved kochovim. Okay, same story. An Eved Ivri was sold to an idol worshipper. Nigal lechatzoin or ena nigal lechatzoin, which means, please don't get confused. Now the question is not that he redeems himself halfway through. The question is, can the Eved give, yeah, or actually his relatives, give the owner, the goy, half his value and redeem half the time? Let's say it was sold for the goy and he still has 6 years to come. Although la halacha, goy doesn't go by 6 years, let's say but could be, I don't know, 10 years. In other words, could be the goy just bought a yid for not forever, because that's what he wants. Yeah, he bought a yid for 10 years. Okay, let's just make it 6 years because that's what you're used to. And by the way, there is an opinion that connects the goy to 6 years. These were Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva. These are Tanoim. There are such opinions. Yeah, some Achronim say that this Gemara follows their opinion. But the point is as follows. My question is as follows. To make it easier for you to differentiate between the cases, let me tell the following story. The person, which person? The Yid, was sold to a goy. Quite at the beginning of the process, it was worth 600, was bought for 600. His value so far did not change. 1, 2, 3 days, insignificant amount of time. Rich Uncle Billy from America heard the horrible news that his nephew was sold to the goy. Well, he's not that rich. And let's say that the Yid was sold to goy for 6 million. Uncle Billy can actually fork out right away without breaking any whatever savings he has in his running account, 3 million. So can Uncle Billy come to the goy and say, listen, dude, you Mackenzie, I'm giving you 3 million now on the table, and I want you now to free him halfway, meaning right now deduct 3 years. Again, it's not the same story before of just the years has passed. Our previous story was there were 6 years, 3 years passed, right? And now when you redeem him for 3 million for 3 years, it's not halfway, it's the entire thing. It's whatever is left. Now it's a different story. I want to redeem him at some point, and that redeeming is only half. In other words, I'm buying half the nephew, and you have half the nephew by you. And we're not going to do it one day by me, one day by you. LMI, what we're going to do is, what we're going to do, I apologize. What we're going to do is just that he'll be half redeemed. So 3 years, only 3 years and not 6.
Means he's going to start his shibud in year 4?
No, he'll finish his shibud in year 4. Whenever that is, whenever it was done, he bought out half the slave. So let's say we're at the beginning of the 6 years. So after 3 years, he'll go out because the last 3 years that you bought him are really mine, belong to Uncle Billy. What's wrong? Can I redeem half an Eved or not? Don't tell me it's clear yes, because it's a question. And soon you'll know why it's a question. Yeah. Can you buy? Is it a package deal? In other words, is selling, which we dealt with before, and redeeming package deal? You know, you go to the supermarket, there's something they're upset with you for taking one bottle out of the whole thing. They say it's bought in packages of 6 and not 1, right? Is that it? Do we say you can only redeem the entire thing? Is it all or nothing? And if Uncle Billy only has 3 million and not 6, then sad news. His nephew will stay there until Uncle Billy garners another 3 and all in one go. Or no. Or maybe you can redeem your nephew, redeem your brother for half, and then half will go out, half will stay in, whichever way that works. That's a question. Let's see. But yeah. What's the question? Why not? The Gemara is asking as follows. Welcome to the world of Sdei Achuza. We've discussed it before. Sdei Achuza is basically a regular field that a person had from his parents. Yeah, he sold his Sdei Achuza. He sold this Sdei Achuza to another Jew, and now he wants to redeem the Sdei Achuza, the field of his fathers. He wants to redeem and buy it back. That's all very nice. Well, by Sdei Achuza, it says the word kedei. Kedei geulosoi. What's kedei geulosoi? You cannot redeem half the field. I sold you my house in the no, not a good example at all. No. I sold you my field next to I don't know where Kibbutz Be'eri. Yeah, he sold him no on purpose. Oh, everything will be good there soon. Yeah, he sold him the field right wherever, and the field is worth 10 million. I have 5 million. Give me back half a field. No, Xeris Akosov, you don't do that. You don't go half. There's no such thing as dachuza. Why? Because Hashem says it. I'm sure there are reasons. I don't know. It says kidei. Kidei, enough. Only if you have enough, the whole thing, you can redeem it. Otherwise, no. So, the question is, the word geulosoi appears twice by Sdei Achuza and also by Eved Ivri, Hanim Kar Lagoy. So, do you play the Gzer Shova or don't you play the Gzer Shova? Geulosoi Sdei Achuza gomar. Mas Sdei Achuza eno niga lechatzoin. Just like Sdei Achuza, you cannot redeem halfway. It's a cruel game of all or nothing. Wait. Yeah, in other words, save more money, the entire 10 million, and then buy back your field. If you do if you apply the Gzer Shova, same thing by the Eved, you cannot redeem the Eved unless you have the entire amount. And if you gave him half, by the way, we'll see what happens if you give him half. But if you gave him half, he's not redeemed. He's not redeemed. It may be, by the way, I want to prepare you now. I want to plant the seeds in your mind. It may be a prepayment. In today's world, I would put it in an escrow account, the 3 million. And Uncle Billy says, I'm coming soon in a week or a month or a year. I'll come the other 3. Okay. When he comes the other 3, beseder. We'll join the amounts together. Fine. But for now, no, he's not redeemed at all. Okay. Oidilma, or maybe. No. Lekula amrinan, lechumra lo amrinan. In other words, we're going to see soon that redeeming halfway, yes or no, redeeming half, sometimes can work lekula. We always, by the way, look here from the point of view of the slave. Sometimes it works for the kula of the slave as a kula as a benefit. It's a benefit for the. It's not like kula like in halacha. It's a benefit. It's a financial benefit for the eved, and sometimes the chumrah. Sometimes it works to his detriment. Sometimes it creates. It's not good for him financially. And now the Gemara wants to say, listen, maybe there's a Gzer Shova Geulosoi. Maybe we would only apply the Gzer Shova Geulosoi only when it's good for him and not when it's bad for him, for the Eved. Again, we always are very biased, so to speak, pro the Eved. So maybe we apply the Gzer Shova Geulosoi only in a case where it's good for the Eved. When is it good? When is it bad? I promise you, it will be explained in the next stage. Omerle. So now he answered. Clear-cut answer. Clear answer, says Rav Sheshes to Rav Huna. He says, Lav Omar Hosom, didn't you say over there? Over there means when you sell the Eved Ivri to a Jew. We said there, Nimkar Kuloi Velo Chetzioi. No. We had it a few days ago. Who wants to refresh my memory? Nimkar Kuloi Velo Chetzioi. You can't sell, half an Eved Ivri, which means, let's say the Eved Ivri stole 500 shekels, whatever, and 500 million, 500 something, and he's worth 1,000. He's a good, able-bodied man. So can you sell half of him to pay the 500? No. Zeres Kosuv. So what do? I don't know. You manage other ways, But Nimkar Kula V'lo Chetzioi. In other words, you can't sell half an Eved Ivri. Aha. So leave Sdei Achuza alone. Achinami Nigal Kula V'lo Chetzioi. Here too, just like the way in of an Eved Ivri, you can only sell him all or nothing. Selling him twice is another shaila. Don't get confused with that. But selling half of him, he only owes 500. He's overqualified. He's better than, he's 1,000 worth, and he's only stole 500. Then you don't sell him at all. He has to give the 500 some other way. Like that way. So too, when he's getting out of slavery, so too, no. You do not redeem him halfway. You only redeem him when in its entirety. Now, Omar Abaye says Abaye is not yet completely settled with that. And soon we're going to use this, and we'll have to have other examples. Intim tziloimar, if you would say niga lechatzoin, let's say you would like to say niga lechatzoin, yeah, that the Eved can be nigal halfway. In other words, he's worth. Now let's move, if you don't mind, from 6 million. We'll move to the Gemara's numbers. He was worth, let's say, 200, right? And now you want to pay 100, 200 million, okay? It was worth 200 million. Wow, wow, wow. And now Uncle Bill is giving 100 out of the 200. So half his term is already, yeah, he's out. Yeah. If you say that, then mashkachas lalekula velechumra. That's going to be now a lot of fun. You can have a situation in which the person was redeemed halfway, and it's a kula. It's good for the eved. It's for his benefit, and sometimes it will be for his deficit, for his detriment. Let's check the numbers, and it's really Baruch Hashem very good. Lakula, case number one, Lakula. Before we continue, I would say like this. Okay, I'm going to show the screen. The real apologies to the people who watch us from home because it's not so clear. The back, the whiteboard, prepayment. Oh, okay. Fine. Omar Abai. Lakula. Line starts with Lakula. When would the redeeming half an Eved would be good for the Eved? Listen to the following example. Zabnei b'mea. The person originally bought the Eved for 100. He's worth 100. Yohavlei chamishin palga dedami. Uncle Billy gave him 500, right? To redeem half the Eved. Okay, and let's say you can. Now, the ashbach v'kamal matan. Yeah, this is, right, the 100 became 200. He became better. He improved in quality. He went to the gym. He took a PhD. I don't know. He's now, highly employable. And then, now listen to this. If you say that was niga lechatzoin, when I paid him 50, when the rich uncle paid him 50, right? Then he paid already for that half, and that half we're done with. It's a dichotomy. It's a clear line. I paid you 50 for that. Now, this new guy worth 200 is a new person. Yes, absolutely. I paid you for that one half 50. Now, the fact that the slave is 200, I already own half of him. And therefore, yoiv mea venofik. All I'll give you now is I'll give you just 100. Why? Because I only care about the current value of 200. I care about 200. The 100, that's history. When I was poide, I cut off the past from the present. I was pointed at already. That's old bill. It's not prepaying for the same guy. It's just what? It's 100 that I paid 54. Now it's worth 200. Okay, I'll pay you the other half. So altogether, I'll give you what? 150. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think 50 plus 100 is 150. And that is what I'll do. Wait a minute. If you say that he's not redeemed halfway, meaning that there was like a prepayment. When he gave him the 50, it's the same story, but with different outlook. He gave him 50, the redeemer to the master, out of 100, right? But now when he became expensive and he became 200, then we say, oh, excuse me, then right? Then you have to give him 150. Why? Because we say, no, excuse me, that 200 guy, you didn't redeem not even one dime of him. Maybe it's a prepayment. You owe me for the 200 guy. You gave me 50. There was such a nice, cute prepayment, the 50. Now you owe me 150 because there was just a prepayment. It was the first installment. You owe me 200 because there's no cutoff point. No, we are just going by the 200 because this is what he's worth. The fact you paid before can be a nice prepayment for the current situation. And I think, correct me, please, teach me, that I think that is 250 plus 150, 200. Oh, yeah, somebody who cares about me a little bit. Yeah, this means that this is smaller than this. now that's get well. Why is Tzvi making me faces all the time? Or you? So I'll explain again, maybe first, and then yeah, yeah,
they say the kamatashlumin,
yeah.
whether the computer appreciates or depreciates.
That's there,
There
not
was
here.
a fixed price.
My friend, this is the computer.
Regardless of what the future value is.
But that is not the case over here because there you don't have niga lechatzoin. If you said, excuse me, I'll give another example. If I decide that I buy half the computer, let's say for X amount of money, and I paid for this half, and we said done deal, finished, and then after the deal is done, finished, over, then I pay for the other half, that's a different story. In other words, you only understand the second side, but it's definitely the first side. The first side says what? Because that's pidyon. Pidyon means I paid for that half. It's true that now he's 200, but that 200 already, Rashi says better than me. Rashi says the decrease happened in the hands of the owner. The owner now, what you have now is only the 100. I already paid for half of 100, right? So now what increased by you, it's keilu only 100 increased by you. So I only have to pay 100. That's it. You gained only 100 because the first 100 already paid half of. It's a dichotomy. To me, it's clear. I don't know. It's two different transactions. That's exactly what we're not saying, Tzvi. We're saying that this is not installments. It's not 10 installments of buying a sofa. No, it's two separate sales. Two separate sales is a different story. He was 50 and I paid for that 50. Now the 200 is an Isaac. I'll pay you again for the new guy. A new guy owning 200. Why is it a new guy? Because the old guy, the cheap guy, I already redeemed half. Now from the expensive guy, I also have to redeem half. They're two different avodim. It's kilo, you have two different avodim. Oh, you have this eved before and after, like the diet advertisements. Yeah, before and after. Before it was 100, he gave half. Now it's 200, give it. Why? What makes them two people? That is nigal lechatzayin. Das is nigal lechatzayin. That is nigal lechatzayin.
What? Only half. There's no quarter, 3/4.
Don't know. Don't know. I don't think so. You can play the same game with a quarter and an eighth. Why? We're behind. Yeah. The Gemara is now asking something is wrong with this entire example. Why? What did we say in the previous sugya? The amount you told me, nisra b'kaspoi. We said that if a person became expensive in the middle of the 6 years, mikesef miknosoi. What did we say in the previous sugya? If a man became more expensive, became 200, we ignore the 200. We go by the original price because we want to save a yid, parrots. Oh, if so, your example, excuse my language, is not good. Yeah, right? Because anyhow, we don't carry 200, so your nafkamin is wrong. Answers the Gemara, and that won't be on the whiteboard. It was 200, then 100, then 200, which means originally it was 200, and therefore both the original price was 200, the current price is 200. So wherever you go, you have to do 200. How do we have the case? In the middle, he had a decline of 100. Yeah, it was 200. Then he went down to 100, then back to 200. And Uncle Billy chapped him when he was 100. He started the pidyon process 100. But Lamaisa, now that he became 200, you can't say, hey, let's go to the beginning, because the beginning was also 200, right? And yes, Ellen, you're right. Of course, you have to take into account the years too. It's taking into consideration. You have to take both the years and the value of the person. Both, absolutely. Now, with the opposite case, when would redeeming him halfway? Now you understand what's redeeming. Redeeming halfway means it's keilu, whatever I bought. It's exactly the opposite of buying a computer for 10 tashlumim. It's kilo, I bought two computers, right? And the guy drives you crazy and he says, the other computer was expensive, so pay me more. What? That's worse than Israeli service. The one computer was one computer, then inflation or deflation, the other computer. It's kilo, you have two avodim. You have two avodim. One Evid I redeemed, the other one is the new situation is all new Evid. Explains the Gemara. Lechumra. Zabne b'moson. Oh, the other case is just the other way around, is the case of declining. He was 200 and now he's worth 100. He went down. Yoiv mea palgidedami. He gave Uncle Billy, the Redeemer, gave him what? 100, half of the 200. That's what he gave him. And now the ichsaf became cheap. The Kamal Mea, the Eved now cheapened, now went down in price and value, devaluated. He's now 100. Oh, if you say, wait, 100, I gave you 200, 100 of 200, that was old stuff. That was Eved number one. Now there's Geula, there's a new Eved to now redeem. Give me another 50, says Mackenzie. Give me 100, another 50. Yoev lechamshin v'nafik. Give me the 100 you gave me, very nice elf from old stuff, old hats. This is 100 now. Give me another 50. 100 plus 50 is 5 no, 150 is 150. The Omart ain't nigal lechatzoin, but if you say that it's not nigal lechatzoin, but it's like a computer of 10 tashlumim, if you say that ain't nigal lechatzoin, you say that the whole thing is one long process, then we say, excuse me, how much is it worth now? 100? That's all I know. He's worth 100. Ah, I gave you 100 already. I gave you 100. How much do I have to give you now? Very nice, Sufgania. 0. I have to give you 100 plus 0. The 100, as I told you, was a prepayment, was like a pikodon. Here it is. 150 or 100. Yeah? Do we say that the other 100 was like a deposit? Keep the 100 to yourself and finished. So that would actually be a chumrah. Here, the geula, to disconnect the two cases, geula is done. And now it's a new story, would be to his detriment. You'll have to pay 150. So both cases work. However, you are right, Peretz. Peretz is right that the Gemara did say before that either we compare them completely or we don't compare them only lekula and not lechumrah. Right? So we are tending always to be mekel. I haven't seen the Rambam on this one. I'd like to see the Rambam. I have a feeling that the Rambam would probably pass in lekula that you always go halfway. Okay? But you better know. Oh, Boimine. Good. We're all friends. Boimine Rav Huna B'chinan Rav Sheshes. I will now close the screen. Yeah. Boimine Rav Huna B'chinan Rav Sheshes. Rav Huna B'chinan asked Rav Sheshes. Amoicher bais bebote orei choimo. What's bote orei choimo? Bote orei choimo means a person sold a house, not a field, a house inside in a town, a city that is walled. You know, a walled city from the times of Yeshua. It doesn't only apply for Purim, Yerushalayim, Akko, Yafo, yeah. You sold a house in Yafo, Akko, Yerushalayim, and what happens then? Bote orei choimo, you sold, you better redeem it. There's a very interesting halacha meforsh in the Torah. If you redeem the house, you buy it back from the buyer, yeah, within the first year, it's yours. If you miss that 1 year, it stays by the buyer forever and ever. And this time, I do mean forever. It overrides Yovel. It's one of the only cases where Yovel is losing the game, yes. And the Bate Orei Choima, it's by the way just the opposite of Sdei Achuza. The achuza, you're not allowed to redeem it from the buyer for 2 years, and that's very sensible. Give him at least 2 years to have an agricultural process. He bought a field. And then after the 2 years, then you're allowed to redeem it. By Beitz de Achuza, Rav Hirsch has all explanation. I don't remember. The Beitz de Achuza, if you're really hot on it, you have to quickly redeem it back within a year. We want to encourage people to redeem back their houses. And if you didn't, it stays with the buyer forever and ever. Okay. So now, Frek the Gemara. Same question. That house in the old city of Yerushalayim goes for the very, very cheap. What's a cheap apartment in the old city overlooking the Kotel? Nice, well-kept apartment. 10 million shekels. It's true. 10 million shekels. That's nice. Not handsome. Small amount. 10 million shekels. I sold my 10 million house to someone, to a rich guy from LA. And what? Now, the 5 million I have, can I redeem half the house? Yeah. And redeem half the house. 5 million are mine. Half the house is mine. The other, no, the other won't be mine forever. Well, maybe. Do we say giulosu misdei achuza goma? Again, the same question. Do the words giulosu create gzer shovo from sdei achuza? Mas sdei achuza is a field, obviously outside the city that he inherited from his fathers. Mas sdei achuza ein nigeres lechatzoin. Just like sdei achuza, you cannot redeem halfway because it says kidei. Day enough. Here too, the Bate Orei Choima, even though it doesn't say Kedei, but maybe Nigal creates the same din. About Orei Choima, you can't redeem it halfway. All this will be Nigal Alocha, guys. Mashiach is coming. Ideal, or maybe Hecha de gali, gali. Hecha de loy gali, loy gali. Or maybe not. Whenever the Torah said the word kidei, it's coming to tell me only when you have the entire amount kidei, and that is by sdei achuza. If the Torah skipped and omitted the word kidei in the Batar Rechoima, then the fact it's omitting the word kedei means that there is no Gzer Shova. And it's interesting. You could still say Gzer Shova overrides it, but we understand that if the Torah doesn't write kedei, it's coming to tell me, don't give me any Gzer Shovas. I'm not interested in the guy Dafka having the entire amount kedei in Batar Rechoima. And Batar Rechoima, according to this, may be redeemed halfway. Question. Omer Lad, just give the answer and the details will follow tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem. Mimidrash of Shimon Nishma. From the Medrash of Shimon, I can hear, I can learn. Shaloi vegoyel vegoyel chatzoin, which means when it comes to Batar Rechoima, there are two halachas that apply to Batar Rechoima that do not apply to Sdei Achuza, and that is number one. I'll start from the end. Ein nigelos lechatzoin. No, you can't redeem it to no nigelos lechatzoin. Sorry, you can. No, yeah. But the Batar Rechoima, you are allowed to redeem halfway through, and it works. And also, loy vegoyel. Kedei means hesiga yodoi. Interesting halacha. Sdei Achuza, you're not allowed to borrow money in order to buy back your field. It has to be your own earned money, well-earned money. You can't borrow from Uncle Jimmy in order to, or Billy, in order to what? In order to redeem the field. It has to be your own money, and Beis Din can check into that somehow, yeah? One second. Mashek and Batar Rechoima, we're much more lenient, and we say Batar Rechoima, you may borrow and redeem, and also redeem halfway. It sounds like Batar Rechoima, we're more lenient about the way that you redeem it. His svara, I would say, he only has 1 year to go, so he's more pressurized for time, maybe, but the other reasons. So we're going to see this soon tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Oh, still a long way to go. Thank you very much. Questions are welcome. Thank you to everybody who watches us on Torah Anytime, YouTube, and anywhere else in the world. Hatzlocho, brocho, thank you. Question time. Thank you to everybody on Zoom.